Alpha 3.24 was finally released to the live servers on Wednesday, last week after 2 long months of being rigorously tested. Now with even more time sinks being added, some players have been rubbed the wrong way with this most recent patch. However, there's been a lot of bug fixes and hot fixes done for this update that gives me hope for the future. And finally, Inside Star Citizen showcased how combat and Pyro will evolve in both peaceful and war-torn locations. If you love to discuss the game's future and enjoy seeing all of the great sim gear and peripherals in the market, smash that like button and consider supporting the channel by clicking that subscribe button so you can stay informed. Welcome back to Last Week in the Verse. On Wednesday, the 3.24 update was released to the live servers, bringing some fairly big changes on how players interact with the cargo and manage their assets in Star Citizen. Now it was about time too, as this patch had been in testing for over 2 months. The update introduces new mechanics like freight elevators, instance hangars, and ship elevators, creating a more physicalized and realistic system for handling assets, which will change how we interact with cargo. And we'll be going over the major changes this patch brings. One of the key features of this update is the shift from local inventory to item banks, which changes how players interact with their belongings. However, I'm disappointed to see the UI for the item banks be removed in this update. Now with that said, I expect that changes will be made in the future to allow players to equip their items directly from the item banks and eventually replace the old item management screen. The introduction of persistent hangar decorations also allows for greater level of personalization, enabling players to customize their hangars to reflect their individual playstyle. Personal and instance hangars in 3.24 are an extremely welcome change, providing players with a dedicated space for uninterrupted inventory management, customization, and persistent storage. These hangars are now more than just a place to park your ships. They serve as a hub where you can organize your assets without the disruptions that would have been common in public hangars before this patch. With the ability to customize your hangar space, players can now make it feel like a true home base, reflecting their personal style and preferences. Central to the functionality of these hangars are the ASOP terminals, additional item banks, and freight elevators. ASOP terminals streamline access to your fleet, making it easy to retrieve and store your ships within your hangar. Freight elevators play a crucial role in moving cargo and items between your ship and the hangar. However, I am concerned about the potential increase in time sinks with these new mechanics. But I expect that further refinements and adjustments will be made based on player feedback to improve the overall experience of freight management. Freight elevators in 3.24 bring a significant shift in how cargo is managed in Star Citizen, replacing the old system of invisible inventories with tangible, physicalized interactions. Every item and piece of cargo now has a real presence in the game world. Loading and unloading your ship is no longer just a simple click in the menu, but an actual process where you can see and handle your cargo, making the logistics of trading, transporting, and storing goods feel much more authentic and hands-on. Now, this shift to physicalized cargo management profoundly impacts the overall gameplay experience. It encourages players to think more strategically about how they handle their inventory, as their process now requires planning and time. While this adds a new level of realism and depth, it also means that players must be more mindful of their time and resources, as managing cargo has become a much more involved task. However, this added complexity also brings a greater sense of accomplishment when successfully managing large shipments or organizing your hangar, adding another level of depth to your gameplay. The update also introduces new legal cargo hauling missions, which add a fresh layer of gameplay for those who enjoy the logistics side of Star Citizen. Now, these missions also make use of the newly implemented freight elevators, requiring players to physically move goods between their ships and delivery points. Now, they also have a auto-loading feature, which takes a little bit more time and also costs you a UEC. But as the system continues to evolve, I believe that this will also change, potentially allowing you to adjust the amount of NPCs that are unloading or loading your ship, increasing or decreasing the cost and time that auto load takes. The complexity of these missions varies, with some being straightforward tasks, while others are more challenging, gated by your reputation within the game. Now, as you build your reputation, you'll unlock higher risk missions that will yield higher rewards. But obviously these are just AUEC rewards. Hopefully in the future we'll have rewards that are more than just AUEC and are instead tangible items that we can earn. Commodity kiosks have also seen a significant update this patch. Players can now purchase SCU-sized containers directly from these kiosks, and choose to have them automatically loaded onto their stored ships. Now, this feature introduces a time-based element to commodity management that I mentioned earlier, where the decision to automate the loading process can save you time, but also might require some patience as you wait for the loading to complete. This change adds more options to the trading and hauling experience, encouraging players to think strategically about how they manage their time and resources when dealing with large quantities of goods. Finally, the transition from local inventory to item banks in 3.24 represents a major improvement in how players store, retrieve, and equip their items. Item banks provide a more organized and accessible way to manage FPS gear and other personal items, eliminating the clutter and confusion that could arise with the old system. Now, this new system makes it easier to keep track of your belongings and ensure that everything is stored efficiently, ready for you when you need it. Overall, the item banks make things more physicalized in the way that freight elevators do, which will undoubtedly be frustrating for some. But this will continue to make for a better experience as the feature is further refined. With all these new features in 3.24, it's clear that Star Citizen is evolving, albeit very slowly this year. While the addition of time sinks in areas like freight management, item banks, and commodity handling add complexity and frustration, I fully expect that CIG will continue to refine and adjust these elements in future patches based on player feedback. As we all know right now, there are a ton of time sinks, so we need to reduce those time sinks rather than increase them. And I completely believe that CIG are aware of this and are planning to work on it in the future. Personally, I've been enjoying these changes while playing on the live servers. Now, this is just my experience, and I know that there are some people in the comments that have been having a numerous amount of issues. Now, I don't know what these issues are related to specifically or why they're being caused, but it's worth noting that some people have been having completely different experiences from others. Now, it's encouraging to see how quickly CIG have been addressing bugs and releasing hotfixes, which is a promising shift from what we've seen in previous patches. This commitment to improvement makes me optimistic about the future of the game and the continued evolution of the Star Citizen universe. Now, unfortunately, 3.24 had a very difficult start, and there's a lot of issues that still remain. But they still seem committed to fixing a lot of the issues. In this week's episode of Inside Star Citizen, we were treated to an in-depth look at the combat-related gameplay coming in 4.0, especially within the chaotic Pyro system. Now, as Pyro is an unregulated and lawless region, combat can erupt at any moment, turning once peaceful locations into intense battlegrounds. The team behind the game has designed these spaces with an unpredictable edge, ensuring that no area feels truly safe. Picture yourself browsing a shop, and suddenly you're ducking behind counters as a firefight breaks out, all because someone really likes the Artemix armor you're wearing. Now, one of the standout features discussed was how the trade posts in Pyro have been designed to adapt to combat scenarios. These locations, which constantly shift inventory and layout, can quickly transform everyday objects into cover during firefights. Imagine, for example, needing to grab a ship component or a multi-tool, but before you can make your purchase, you're using those very items as cover in a shootout. Once the dust settles, you can return to your shopping, but the experience of fighting through these chaotic environments will remind you next time to never go alone. This solidifies my thoughts that Pyro will be a much better experience with friends there to back you up. Another exciting addition to 4.0 is the evolution of NPC behavior, drawing from what the developers have learned from Squadron 42. NPCs will have more defined roles and combat strategies, with specific classes designed to engage players in different ways. Now, whether that's a techie NPC using light armor and SMGs to flush you out, or a heavily armored headhunter relentlessly pushing forward, these enemies will create more dynamic and challenging combat situations. The inclusion of new elements like attack animals fighting alongside human NPCs adds another layer of unpredictability to engagements. And if server meshing works like the developers and many of us hope, it will be a night and day difference from our usual experiences. The factions within Pyro also bring unique combat experiences. For instance, if you side with the headhunters, you might find yourself sneaking into an outpost under the cover of darkness, disabling key installations to cripple enemy operations. On the other hand, aligning with the Citizens of Prosperity will have you navigating treacherous canyons to sabotage the scrap supply of rival factions. Now, these missions are crafted to immerse players in the power struggles of Pyro, with each faction offering distinct challenges and rewards. Finally, the presence of the Xeno threat faction looms large over the Pyro system. Now, they are known for their disciplined and defensive combat tactics. These enemies are a far cry from the reckless outlaws, as they're more of an unlawful paramilitary corporation. Engaging them will require careful planning and strategic thinking, especially when taking on fortified locations like the Last Ditch Settlement. These new combat encounters in 4.0 promise to be some of the most intense and immersive experiences in Star Citizen yet, setting the stage for a more dynamic and dangerous universe. Now, as I said before, 4.0 alone will not be some game-changing patch, but it will deliver even more gameplay that will be a welcome addition to the game. But server meshing is the game changer that we've needed for years, and it could be the beginning of what makes Star Citizen great. As we wrap up this week's episode of Last Week in the Verse, we've dove into the exciting developments from the 3.24 update, which brought some big changes to cargo management and asset handling in Star Citizen. After 2 months of rigorous testing, the update finally hit the live servers, introducing new mechanics like freight elevators, personal and instanced hangars, and ship elevators. These additions marked a major shift towards a more physical and immersive way of managing your belongings and cargo, making every interaction with your assets feel more tangible and realistic. Now, one of the most notable changes in this update was the transition from the local inventory system to item banks, which changes how players manage their gear. While the removal of the item bank UI was a slight disappointment for me, the promise of future updates to streamline item management offers hope for improvement. This, along with the updated commodity kiosks, which now allow for SCU-sized container purchases, adds a new layer of strategy to how you manage time and resources. These changes, while adding some complexity, bring a greater sense of accomplishment and realism to the gameplay, making the Star Citizen universe feel more alive and evolving with each update. In addition to the 3.24 update, last week's episode of Inside Star Citizen provided an exciting preview of the combat-related gameplay coming in 4.0, specifically within Pyro. The developers showed how the system's unpredictable environment will allow combat to erupt in the most unexpected places, making each location evolve. They also highlighted the evolution of NPC behavior, with new archetypes and combat strategies making encounters more dynamic and challenging. Now, whether you're navigating the treacherous terrain of Pyro's trade posts or engaging in tactical battles against the disciplined Xeno threat faction, the upcoming 4.0 promises to deliver some of the most immersive and thrilling combat experiences in the Star Citizen universe yet. Now, my expectations for the next year are fairly low, but I do hope that 4.0 will actually be released on time, and that CitizenCon showcases some major changes that will be released to the players early next year in their next update. Now, it's anyone's guess as to what will come after 4.0, but perhaps we can see features like base building, crafting, or the Nix system sometime next year. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want to stay updated on all things Star Citizen, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep this channel going. And let me know what your hopes are for CitizenCon, as I would love to hear your thoughts. If you've enjoyed this video and want to support the creation of more content like this, consider becoming a member of the channel. Your support will help keep the discussions going and ensures that I can continue to provide in-depth analysis and updates on Star Citizen's development. And if you want my thoughts on what CIG could possibly do to focus on the future, then you'll want to check out this video. Fly safe, pilots, and we'll see you in the verse. Have a go.